So you just finished Big Cypress. What's next? I know for me, about a mile before the end of Big Cypress, I was exhausted. I was tired of wet shoes and socks. I was tired of slogging through water, and I just needed a break. And I talked to some amazing trail angels on Facebook who encouraged me to keep moving, to get to the 75 rest stop, to have a soda, to have some chocolate, to have some chips, and then to move on because it was dry past 75. And they were right. That's exactly what I needed. And it was dry past 75, and I was hiking during the kind of the wet season. So it should be dry when you hike there. The first part of the path past 75 is really beautiful. It's an easy walk. It's all kind of road, path, gravel. And after all the water that I'd been walking through, it was amazing. I saw a dead fish on the side of the road, which confirmed that it was very dry. And and it's only a 5-mile walk to Noble's Camp. That's a great spot to stay, especially if you've come from the swamp through 75 and kept walking, because it is another 12 miles to the only place that you're allowed to camp on the reservation. So Noble's is a good spot to stop. Now, I will say I did not stop there because at the time that I went, the Noble's area was very, very overgrown. It hadn't been cleared yet. And it's about 100 yards off the path, and I couldn't find it. I wandered around for a while, and I couldn't find an area to hang a hammock that wasn't overgrown, and everything was in the direct sunlight, and I still had a lot of daylight left. So I went ahead and pushed forward. But if you don't have another 12 miles in you, I would stop at Noble's. The hike onto the reservation is actually one of the prettiest parts of the hike for me. Big Cypress was beautiful, but I was exhausted all the time in Big Cypress. So this was the first time that I kind of got to relax a little bit and really enjoy the beauty around me without stepping through a whole bunch of water at the same time. There were definitely a lot of bear tracks, a lot of bear scat. It's just something to be aware of on that part of the trail, but it was gorgeous. I got through the reservation gates and walked all the way to West Boundary Road. West Boundary Road, I assumed was going to be a larger road and there would be streetlights and things like that. There were not, so it's just something to be aware of. Don't plan on doing that road at night. If you are thinking that that's what's going to be happening, I would just stay at Noble's and then go on to the reservation the next day. Now, the reservation itself, if you're needing a little bit of downtime while you're on the reservation, there are things to do. There's a museum that I highly recommend visiting that's right across the street from where you're able to stay. And I was lucky enough to be there when there was an American Indian art celebration going on. So I took a bit of a zero and I spent time going to that, which was really wonderful. And I got to know some amazing people. Once you leave the Baptist church, you're going to have a big walk before you get to the next area where you're allowed to camp if you're not stealth camping. So it's something to keep in mind and to time accordingly. It's really best to start in the morning. So if you're taking a zero, it gets a little bit trickier. From when you leave the reservation until you get to the base of the lake, almost all of your walking is land owned by the Water Management District, and most of that walking is on levees. Now, the levees, for the most part, are up on the top of like a hill that's in between two canals or a canal and farmland. So it's fully exposed, you are in the sun all day, and it's usually hard packed gravel. There are a few exceptions to that where you're maybe at the base of a hill and then there's a canal, or the canal's on the other side, but almost all of it is hard packed gravel with rocks and things like that. It's just something to be prepared for. It's not as easy on the feet as one would hope, and it's not quite as interesting to look at because it gets a little bit monotonous. The first place that you're allowed to camp is called STA 56. It's something that you have to reserve ahead of time, and it's basically at a trailhead. There's a covered area with picnic tables, and there are, it's kind of like a porta potty. There's a concrete structure with toilets, and it's really a hole in the ground porta potty type situation in there. No running water. There is a pump. It's got, even after priming it, the water's going to be brown and it's going to be very, very sulfur smelling. But if you've got a filter, you can drink it. It's just going to smell a lot like rotten eggs. It was an okay place to camp, but this is Florida and any structure becomes wasp and bee infested very, very quickly, and this was no exception. So it's just something to be aware of. There are places to hang a hammock, but a tent is actually a little bit easier in this particular location than those who are sleeping in hammocks. It's not impossible either way though. On from there, from that campsite to the next approved campsite, which is L1E, is 16.2 miles. It's more of the same. It's more levee walking. It's past a lot of water maintenance buildings and things. It's not the most exciting walk, but it is a long walk, and so be prepared for it. For me, when I got to that particular site, and once again, they hadn't gone through yet and they're looking at making some improvements to it, but when I got there, it was just basically a sloped hill with flowers everywhere and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of bees. So it wasn't an ideal camping situation for me, and I didn't have a place that I could set up a hammock, or even that I could set up a tent that wouldn't be in the middle of a whole bunch of bees. So I moved on from that point and found a place to stealth camp that night. I'm hoping that by the time you camp there, there's going to be some more options in that area. L1E is at the 82.3 mile mark on the Far Out app. And at 85.3, it looks like it goes to road walks. And I ended up camping just before that because I thought that the majority of the rest of the walk to the lake was going to be road walks. It kind of is, but not really. It's actually more levee walking, but it's not really roads as much anymore because there isn't vehicle traffic on them. It's more hill areas near water that's still part of the water management district. And it's near a road, it's within eyesight of a road, but it's not right on the road, which is good and bad. The good about it is it's a lot safer and you're not walking right next to cars, so I was relieved. The bad part about it is it's mostly unmaintained trail area. I say trail area because there's not really a path there. There probably will be once more hikers start trampling it down and moving through that area. But at the time that I went, the majority of that walk was pretty overgrown. And so especially the last 5 miles before I got to the road that leads up to the lake, there's a last 3 miles that goes up to the lake, but there's about 5 miles before that was corn stalks up to my shoulders. I have a little video of that section. I was really exhausted and out of breath, but I'll show it to you. Believe it or not, this is the trail. The corn stalks are like shoulder height right now, and the grass and plants are at least knee height to thigh in height. Bees and mosquitoes everywhere. That's why I have all of this on. And I think I have another 2.5 miles of this before I get to the next section, which is Miami Road. But this was listed as Roberts Road. I thought it was going to be more of a road walk. That's the road over there. And I'm kind of glad it's not, because the cars go down it really, really fast. And it's only like a 2-lane road. So it'd be incredibly dangerous to walk down. So this is preferable. There have been a couple of train tracks where there was an option to go out to the road. And I really considered it because this is a little miserable. And my socks are soaked. My shoes are soaked. I have so many blisters. But as unpleasant as it is, it's so much safer. So yeah, I think 2.5 miles, and then we'll see what comes next. The last 3 miles along Miami Canal Road are really quite easy and quite pleasant. It's a road walk. but it's not a very busy road, and so it doesn't become an issue with traffic. There's a post office that you'll pass, but the hours are limited. At the time of this video, they were 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 Monday through Friday, but it may change, so it's just something to be aware of and plan your hike accordingly if you need to utilize the post office. The very last road crossing to get from kind of the town area across to John Stretch Park is a very busy road. It made me a little bit nervous crossing it because there aren't very good areas to cross. But once you get to John Stretch Park, there's running water, there are bathrooms, and from then you've got about 3 to 4 miles either east or west, depending on which way you're going around the lake, before you get to the next designated campsite. That's the only tricky part. There really aren't that many areas to camp in that last stretch up to the lake. And there really aren't any approved areas to camp until you go east or west for about 3 to 4 miles. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're planning out your days as well. So with the 30 miles of Big Cypress and then another 64 or so up to the lake from I-75, we are now at mile 94.5 on the Florida Trail. We are at the south end of Lake Okeechobee, and I'm going to be heading east around the lake, so you can check back in and see how it goes.